Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Unleashed. This is season 4, episode 10. And tonight we have an amazing guest. So I am your host, Alicia Khoury, and with me is my host as well.
Technically confused Sebastian on it because I could not swap the background and it's like, what's going on? So yes, I'm the Almost Naked CEO, and we are crazy people. No, we are just somewhat crazy. And you're watching Women Unleashed on Romania TV. I think you already said that. So yeah, the technology just confuses the heck out of me.
Well, good thing we're a
I,
technology company. Anyway, so good
sometimes,
thing we use
sometimes
technology.
I feel like to get the hell out. Oh wait, am I giving some hints?
Well, you know what? Now that you said that, I might as well just jump right in because this is a juicy, juicy topic today. Those of us
Mhm.
who love fashion, watch
Gosh.
fashion, dream about fashion, think about fashion, are obsessed with watching celebrities and their fashion. This episode is all about fashion from the inside. We're going to get deep into the inside of the belly, the underbelly of the fashion industry with our guest. And her book is
If
entitled, sorry, what?
get the hell out. No,
Her book
I
is
was just waiting for
entitled
that moment. I was just waiting for you to say the book, and I was like, get the hell out.
Get the Hell Out. My guest, yes, Martu Freeman-Parker. So we're going to be talking about the real fashion industry, not the glitz and the glam and the photo shoots and the models and all that wonderful stuff that we see that we think is so amazing and so wonderful. We're getting to see, and not the fashion shows, and we're getting to see the truth. We're going to hear some of the truth of what happens and why the book is entitled Get the Hell
Well,
Out.
there is only one word for it. We'll talk about the drama that happens behind the scene.
The drama of the fashion
Uh,
industry. So,
and I don't know why I
grab
said
a cup
behind
of
the scene.
coffee.
What's behind the scene?
I was gonna say, grab a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, whatever is your elixir of choice, and come join us on this episode of Women Unleashed as we talk to Martu Freeman-Parker. So, Martu, I met Martu probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And Martu was born in Washington, D.C. See, now you put the thing on now that I'm reading.
Sorry.
Raised in Philadelphia. She was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Philadelphia. She earned a bachelor's degree in consumer services and fashion merchandising from Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia. She continued her education at the American College in London, study abroad program. She returned to the United States and worked as a freelancer at Polo, Ralph Lauren, The Limited, Victoria's Secret catalog, Jones of New York, Polo Jeans, Calvin
I'm
Klein
kind
Jeans,
of jealous.
Carter's, and Condé Nast publications, as well as holding full-time positions at J. Crew, American Eagle Outfitters, and Urban Outfitters in Philadelphia. Martu now lives
Well, you
with her
know,
husband. You're jealous? Well,
sorry,
I
I'm
think after
super
you
jealous.
listen to this interview, I don't think you'll be jealous. But Martu now lives with her husband and son in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Woo woo! Down here in Florida. She owns and operates MEF Productions LLC, an apparel consultant business that offers a wide range of services to businesses and individuals in the fashion industry. And you can always hear Martu's thoughts on her latest fashion trends and business blog, which is meflifestyle.blogspot.com. And so let's welcome Martu Freeman to the show. Freeman-Parker to the show. Where's Margaret?
Only if I can figure out technology today. We are having the drama.
Technology. There she is.
There we are.
Okay. Out with some drama because the fashion industry is drama, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Let me just begin with saying this that I know what it is because I can't name, but I have clients and I know fashion is really good to look at, but behind the scenes, it's pain in
Yeah, it's very painful.
Painful,
Very,
painful.
very
And you think squeezing a size 10 feet into a size 6 shoe is painful. No,
exactly. Every day. Imagine that
every
every
day.
day.
Squeeze those size 10 feet into a size 6.
I'm too big for this. No, let's get you in.
So yeah, so we're going to kick
So
off
first of
this
all, how you? Sorry, you go.
No, you can ask the question. I was just going to kick off the segment with the segment title, but you can ask.
Well, I was just going to say, really, how are you coping with everything else that's happening in the world right now, Martu?
Actually, I've been up and down. Like I think everyone's been up and down, but just really keeping a pulse on fashion. And this is for creative people. This is the best time where you're absolutely by yourself, and you have to be, and you can allow yourself to just think and grow and create. So I've been having Zoom calls with my clients like every day, at least 2 a day, and it's all about, what's next for me, what's 2021 looking like, and what's fabric. So our world hasn't stopped. It's kind of the incubator state, which is a good space. So fashion is kind of bubbling right now. You just don't see it, but we're all busy. Yeah.
In a way, it's actually a lot of the industries actually are now finally getting a breather, because fashion, media, it's kind of like non-stop business.
Yeah.
You just have nothing. You never stop.
Yeah. So this is good. This is good for us. No, not good, not financially good.
Not financially,
but creatively.
But
not financially.
Creatively, this is a good space. Yeah.
Let's not eat. Let's just create things.
Exactly.
So we're talking about the dream of a fashion. Our first segment, we're going to talking about the dream. A lot of people have a dream of getting into the fashion industry. What is that like? We think about it. I had a dream of getting into the fashion industry. I mean, I ever since I was a teenager, that's all I would eat, sleep, dream, think about it, is the opportunity to get into the fashion world. And you had that same dream. And as I said before in the green room, as I was reading your book, I'm like, this could have been my life.
Yeah.
Hey, you need to do it like this. Now show the book. Let's see the book now.
Yeah, but I wasn't full on screen, so now I can show the book.
There you go.
Yeah.
But what was your dream of the fashion industry? How did you see the fashion industry from a child?
From I would say maybe 5 or 6, I kind of made up my mind that I wanted to be a designer.
Wow.
And that was just, I don't know how that came about, but I have some background from my mom where my mother sewed. She used to make all my clothes. She sewed the whole time I was pregnant. That was the time she was pregnant with me, and that calmed her down. And for me, the sewing machine is the most relaxing place to be. So I think it was just something that was in me. So about 5 years old, I just I liked clothes, and I just loved being around beautiful things and clothes, and I loved making things. So people would say, "Oh, you're going to be a designer," and I was like, "Oh, okay." When I found out what a designer was, I said, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to be," and that was it. Like I never desired to be anything else. That was it.
Wow. So
it was very young.
But and you like had this vision of the end product, right?
No.
DLC?
No, and that's what people say. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew designer was what people said I was going to be or should be. And then when I started to learn more about clothes, and I was more attracted to how clothes made you feel, not so much the end product. So I like studied people as a child. Like I noticed how women dress when they were going out, and how how their bodies change,
posture would change,
everything would change,
attitude
and then
change.
exactly, and then you see a man in a suit, and then the next day he's in jeans, and he's a totally different person. Like that fascinated me. I thought clothes were amazing, like it was some magical thing that people would put on, and then it would change,
transform you. Bam,
exactly.
Bam.
So I was more in like in the whole
The
discovery
psychology of
of
clothes.
fashion, of why people feel this way, why do they act a certain way, why am I different because I have, you know, a Gucci bag opposed to, you know, walking around in a plain old bag. Why do you see me different? And I noticed that because I grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't you know, wasn't a rich neighborhood. It was very workers, very blue collar, and I didn't see a lot of glitz and glamour. But when I would have a chance to see it, it blew my mind because the reaction to it and how people just carry themselves, it was just totally different from what I was used to with people with different kind of clothes. So that's what I saw in fashion. Besides the whole glitz and glamour, I was kind of just more intrigued with the psychology behind it.
And I think a lot of people
Right.
say designer because that's all they kind of
And they
see.
know.
Like either
Yeah.
you're a model, you're a designer, or
Or
you
you're
know,
like a buyer or something.
they don't. You're right. They don't know
Right.
all the real jobs
Exactly.
There's so much more that goes behind that.
Oh my
in the
goodness.
fashion
So,
industry,
you know,
and you had the real jobs
Yeah,
in
the
the
real
fashion
job.
industry. So let's talk
so
about that.
about when, you know, talking about your real job, about when did you finally seriously, when you grew up, get into fashion? How did you get into fashion in the first place as a career?
I decided in high school that I was going to go to school for college, go to college for fashion. Like that was just
Right.
period. In my family, you had to go to college. So everyone asked me, what are you going to do? I'm going to be a designer. I'm going to go to school for fashion. And that was it, period. I never had any there was no other option. So my aunt started taking us around to different schools in New Jersey and Philadelphia and New York when we were in 11th grade, my cousin and I. And we found a couple of schools. I absolutely fell in love with FIT. I thought it was the perfect place for me, but it wasn't the perfect place for me. So, but that
Yeah.
was like my eye opener into the fashion world, what fashion really was about. So from high school to the minute I went into college, I just started doing research about fashion. I started going to fashion shows in New York. I would take trips to New York in high school and just go walk around, go to Saks, go to Macy's, and just because things were so different in
Just
New
soak
York
up
than it
the
was,
ambiance.
yeah, than it was in
Seventh
Philadelphia.
Avenue.
Exactly, just to kind of get used to what I wanted to do. But I just knew I didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into. I knew that it wasn't easy, but I knew I needed to be there. Like that was just it. And
And just
and
the
and no one
smell of
told me.
fabric.
Yeah, but I love and I've
No,
been sewing since I was 11 years old.
it's like the
So
feel, the touch, the smell of fabric. It
all
just
those
excites you.
things.
All the buttons and
it
the
was it was normal for me when people would be playing or doing other things. I would sew or I would sketch, and then like if it was
Right.
somewhere, if it was we had to go somewhere, the thrill for me was making the outfit. You know what I mean? Like it was making the
That
outfit.
sounds like that's you and me. Get on the sewing machine and just sew. Like
So
I didn't know anything about pattern making. I was just I
yeah,
had a vision. I got the fabric and I just sit there and sew
and make it up.
and
Yeah,
pick it
make it up.
apart and put it back together until I got it to fit the right way.
Exactly, and that was
Right.
my childhood. That was my teenage years was all about sewing. I made clothes for my friends. I would sell it. I sold after prom outfits. Like I was the only one
Right.
selling after prom outfits, but I was studying jeans. Anything creative I could get my hands on.
That's
That was
awesome.
it for me.
Well, so we can safely say that, you know, when you started in the career and, you know, initial few years, you did enjoy fashion
Yeah.
for what
Oh,
it was, and
absolutely.
you enjoyed your career,
Yeah.
right? Which takes me to segment two. You did enjoy your career, you had fun, but there was a stage when you were like, "Get the hell out! I have had enough." So,
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to
what
read this
happened?
excerpt from your book
Yeah, please.
to talk about that because you said because a lot happened to you in the fashion industry. There was a lot that
Yeah.
we're gonna go back and backtrack and talk about those things. But you said I realized I was no longer a valuable asset to my profession. I had lost my drive, passion, and love for it. When it hurts to come up with new ideas, when your industry or profession is on the verge of something big, but you just don't care, it's time to get the hell out.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you have you've since a child, since you were 5 years old, you've had this drive, this desire to be in the fashion industry. You sacrificed so, and you have to get this book because she sacrificed so much. You sacrificed so much
Yeah.
to get there. I
Yeah.
mean, going 5 days without food, just
Yeah.
walking 2 hours to school, and this
Cool.
isn't like just a fairy tale, it's like you had no money, you were studying, and you had to get to school, so you couldn't take the bus, you couldn't take anything, so you sacrificed. You
Yeah.
walked 2 hours to get to school with no food, walk 2 hours back home, going to bed hungry.
Yeah.
And so doing that day after day after day to get to where now you're working in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And you did everything. You did temp jobs in New York, just to be in New York to get into the fashion industry. And then you started working at Condé Nast.
Yeah. I started working at Vogue.
Dream job.
Started working at Vogue. That was amazing. I was at a temp agency and I had been there for almost a year, and she was loving me because she would be like, Martu, can you go to the stock exchange for the day? And it's stuff an envelope. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Martu, can you go to this law firm? I remember going to a law firm and changing documents and like literally putting the capital T on every page of like a 90-page document. It was like little things she would ask me to do, and I would be there every day at 8:00, and I would take every assignment she gave me. And she said, Martu, like one day she was like, can you come in the back and we want to talk to you? She said, do you mind, because you come here every day at 8:00, do you mind sitting in the back and answering the phone, and you'll get your same rate? And I was like, heck yeah. So I was back there taking calls, and she said, if you hear anything that you like, let me know. And I remember I was back there for about a couple of weeks, and one of the managers' wife worked at Condé Nast, and she was in recruiting. And she called. She said, I really need someone for the Vogue team. I need someone in a fashion assistant, just someone to come and take the clothes back and forth. And they were like, Martu, this is your chance, because
Devil wears Prada.
Exactly.
Right.
They all knew why I was there, and they knew I was there for the big fashion job, and they knew I was interviewing at different places, but they knew I would take a job, whatever job it was. And she was like, this is for you. Do you want it? And I was like, I fainted a little bit, and it was like the next day, we need you there the next day. And I was there. I went in, and I had a little desk. I was the girl that you would give the samples to take to the photo shoot, and I would pack it up and take it back to the showroom. And I did that for months, and I was just like in heaven. That was it for me. You could have killed me, and I would have died. I would have died happy
with a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
No, we needed the books. We needed the entire story, so we could not let you die.
Yeah. So
how did that Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
That was my introduction to like New York. Like my first time like getting in a cab by myself. I've never been in a cab. I've been in New York all my life with my family, but I've never been in a cab. And I remember taking samples back to a showroom, and I got in a cab, and he said, which way are you going? I said 52nd and whatever. And he's like, get out of my cab. You're going the wrong way. And I was like, oh my God. So that was like my
Welcome to the New York City.
Exactly. That was like me in being introduced to like the true New York City. Yeah.
Right.
So how do you go from your dream job at Vogue, doing that, to wanting to get out of fashion? Well, not fashion, but get out of
the job.
Yeah.
One thing about the fashion industry is a lot of hard work. And it depends on where you go in the fashion industry. I decided to end up in production, which is all of the manufacturing, the trade shows, and fabrics, and trends, and fittings, and samples, production. There's a lot of work. And every company is always understaffed in the fashion industry. And there's just so much drama and so many people.
And what were the hours? Like, talk about the hours.
I was always the early one. So I was like a 7:30, 8:00 girl, and I could leave around the same time or even later. Sometimes it would be, I was steady at like a 9:30 every night. And that was sometimes on Saturdays. Like you just work, and you work. And you're not in a creative space in the fashion industry. There's very limited creative space. There's a lot of work, but the creativity is that designer. And once she's done, she has more work to do, and she has to keep designing. And we have to, now we have to make everything she's made come to fruition in like 20 seconds. So our job never ends. You can work on 3 seasons at the same time: fall, spring, and summer at the same time. So
Yeah, I
those are
remember
long
doing
hours.
styling shoots, and it was like 12-hour, 14-hour days because you're there at 5 a.m. pulling everything together, and then after the shoot, you got to pull the next day, and it's just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, a lot of cigarettes and coffee.
As one of my fashion clients say, I only work 9 days a week and 30 hours a day.
Exactly.
And after that, I just rest.
Exactly, and that's so true. Like you would meet the loneliest people in the fashion industry, the loneliest people, because you don't have time for your friends or your family. You're working, and that's it. That's all you have time for.
Right. Well, I have been told from the industry that before, we're talking pre-cell phone era, that fashion industry people lived nearby, lived close, because they needed to be connected. If they did not have a landline, they had to be sure they're available, they are contactable, and they're practically 10 minutes walk away, because they could be called anytime.
Exactly. And especially in the bigger brands, their CEOs, the designers, they will pay for you to stay right next door if they could. Even when I worked in New York, Philadelphia, most of our designers were from New York, but they had homes or apartments in Philadelphia because we needed them. We didn't have time for the train. Certain seasons, you need to be there, how many hours. So you can't leave at 6. So they would pay for not hotels, but apartments for them. So
yeah, you can leave at 6, but 6 a.m. after doing 18 hours.
Exactly.
And be back at 7.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you talked about in the book that you knew the hell you were in. You were comfortable in the hell that you were in because you were already there. It's like, I didn't know what other hell I was going to jump into, so I might as well stay.
Yeah, and I was that girl that made it. So I was like a hero to all these different people in my life. And I didn't want to disappoint people. I would tell them, oh yeah, I'm working at Victoria's Secret, and people would hit the floor. They would be like, oh my God, you're in Victoria's Secret. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in, and I just didn't want to let people down. And I didn't know any other job. Like I didn't even know where to begin. I did not know any other thing to do. And I would try. I remember one time going to a temp agency saying, look, I have all this fashion background, but if you have anything else, and they were like, yeah, we have production at another fashion company. Like they didn't even want to look. They didn't even try. It was like, we don't even know. Let's
get you out of the hell and send you back to hell.
And it was like they couldn't even understand my resume because the terminology and the things that I'm describing is not normal conversation for any recruiter unless you're in fashion. So he was just like, I talked to my fashion person and we have a job for you. And I'm like, that's
back in fashion.
Yeah.
You talked about
sorry, go ahead.
You talked about limited, you felt like you were limited to one dream. Like you got this one dream your whole life and you had to stick with it.
Yeah. And that's when I had people in my ear. You've done so well for yourself. You made it. Like, why would you change now? Why would you jump the ship? And my thing, and I was in this box with them. And then I thought about it. It's like, it's so many other things I can do in fashion. Why am I miserable here? But that took, years of like being in pain and agony and trying to like satisfy everyone around me and not lose all my benefits and my perks, of being in the fashion industry and not knowing that it's just bigger than, it's so much you can create in this space. So I didn't know that. I had no idea until I got the hell out.
Right. Well, you just spoke about, how you were one of the ones who actually made it. So the question is, what is the hell that people don't see that's happening behind the scenes? Do you want to share a little bit? So, people see fashion, people see all the glamour, but they don't see what's really happening behind the scenes.
Like I said, for me, a normal day would be, I would get in about 7:30. I would be on the computer till about 1 or 2. I would do about 4 or 5 meetings a day. I would follow up. I would speak to China. I would speak to India. I would speak to Bangladesh, Madagascar. I would have literally about 300 emails open all day long, waiting for answers from factories and production, other production people and suppliers. And literally, I would have to come up with these, report at the end of the day saying what I've done, showing what I've done, and then prepare for the next day. So it was like this continuous cycle of, not having a moment to breathe, not having a moment to think. And you're in a job that is supposed to be so glamorous, but I'm literally sat behind my desk all day long. Outside of going to meetings, I'm at my desk. I'm not walking around showrooms. I'm not, the models come in and they take off their clothes and you put clothes on them. Like nothing glamorous. You're thinking, I could be sitting at my desk answering those other 45 emails, but now I'm watching this girl, try on these clothes. Like your mind is never where it's supposed to be. You just work with, it's very toxic, a lot of dangerous people. When I say dangerous, I mean people who have no regard for other people, which is a dangerous space to be in. People who are decensored, who are they're just not connected to what's going on in the world. They're in a fashion bubble. A lot of them walk around, and it's just you have to deal with so many personalities. And when I say I was one of the ones that make it, and I would say at 90% of the companies, I was like the one Black girl in there.
Right.
And I had to deal with that, but I made that an issue. I made that an accomplishment, but it was something I had to deal with plus everything else.
I'm glad you said
I was that girl.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that. And I'm trying to find something that I saw in the news the other day. I did snap a picture of it. I'm trying to look for it. But talk about the culture that you had to also, deal with.
The one thing I thank my mom for, I went to an all Black grade school and a Catholic school all the way up to 6th grade. When I went to high school, I begged to go to a public high school, and she allowed me to go to a desegregated school. So it was just becoming desegregated in 86 when I went to school, and this is in Philadelphia. So I went to a bigger high school, but it was with different people that didn't look like me, white, Jewish, I was used to just Black people that looked like me. So I was exposed to different kinds of people and also levels of wealth. Because the school was in a better neighborhood, kids drove. I didn't have any friends that had cars at 16. So I saw certain things and certain privileges. So when I went into the fashion industry, when I got to New York, it prepared me a little bit for the privilege and just people that weren't connected outside of their own world. I had that exposure, but I worked with people that never sat next to a Black person outside of a public space. You know what I mean? I worked with people who went to Harvard. The one girl sat next to me. She went to Harvard for like social arts or something like that, and she was sitting next to me working. Had no clue about fashion, had no desire, but she got hooked up. Like her family member knew someone you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I sat next to senators' daughters. And a lot of people don't know, this is a secret, a lot of the senators' daughters or the families of these, high-powered families, their kids they get in and they're kind of waiting to get married, and then they leave. So it's like a little incubator job that they can say they all have. So you're sitting next to people that have no desire to be there, that don't.
And you worked your ass off to get there.
And they don't have to work.
And they don't care.
They don't have to work. Yeah.
No, they get to go to all the parties. Their uncle, their aunt, or their cousin, or whoever. They're privileged, and you have to work around them. Mm-hmm. And you most of the time you have to do their work. And I was not expecting that. That was the biggest smack in the face. Like, wait a minute, you went to Harvard, you went to Cornell, and you're sitting. Did you ever want to be in the fashion industry? No.
What are you doing here?
No,
and the fact is, even today,
they're waiting.
Yeah.
Even today, I see, even working with my clients and otherwise as well, I see even today, the colored people in fashion is still not easy. by default, the beauty standards and everything, it's very, very whitish,
Oh
it's
no,
still not easy.
definitely. No, it's definitely not easy. And you can see fashion is evolving. I would say the 2020 or the 2000s fashion started to evolve a little bit more. But I remember sitting in these fittings and they talk about curves and it would be on a woman that had no curves and they would be like, oh my gosh, she's so curvy. And I'm like, do you know what curvy means? Like they had no idea. I remember being in a meeting at Victoria's Secret, and I love my boss because she was a tough New Yorker, and she was just, you could tell she grew up in New York, and she had this great job. She was the merchandise supervisor or director, and we sat in a meeting and we were talking about women's bras, but the flesh tone. So it was this beautiful pink flesh tone color, like mauve color, and everyone's raving about this color. And she's sitting there and she's annoyed because it's like this chatter, and she's one of those women you can't chatter around her. And she said, you know what? If this bra is so great, she said, Martu, can you wear it? And I was like, oh my God, mind you, I'm like nobody in the room, and I'm like, no, because that's not my flesh color. And they were shocked. Like they were stunned. No one thought about another skin tone. Another skin tone never came into the conversation. Right. That was the flesh tone color, period. And she looked at me and she said, can you wear that? And I said, no, that's not my flesh tone. And they looked at me like, what are you saying? Like, you can't? And I'm like, I can't wear it. But never, it was never.
Alien speaking.
Exactly.
Alien in the room.
But the fact that they never even considered a darker skin tone for a flesh tone was, I'm sitting there thinking like, I can't wear this. But of course, I'm not going to say anything. I'm like 20 something years old. Exactly. Right. But she looked at me and she, and she just said, Martu, can you wear that? And that was like one of those people I was like, I love her. I love her.
So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll take some comments. And then I want to ask about your 2 nervous breakdowns when we come back. All right.
We'll be back right after this.
Hey, everybody. We're back. This is Alicia Khoury with my co-host, Sebastian Ane, here on Women Unleashed for episode 10. And our special guest is Martu Freeman-Parker. And we're talking all about the fashion industry and how she got the hell out. Well, she really didn't, because she's still in the fashion industry at some level. But she got out of
but she got out of the hell, though. She got out of the hell.
I did get out
of the toxicity and the just that grind that was grinding her to like mushing you into dust. And so you had 2 nervous breakdowns. And I remember you saying something about you just weren't considering your mental health. You just were just going through the motions.
Through the motions.
How did you get to each one?
My body, I would not admit that I was going through, any type of depression or any type of mental anything. My body shut down. I started having allergic reactions to every single thing. Wine, cheese, egg, milk. Like I had everything I loved, like my body just shut down. I was having hives, like I would, you could breathe on me hard or look at me wrong and I would break out in hives, and like my nerves were just like at that point where I couldn't take anything anymore. And I remember going to the to go get checked on it. I went to the doctor and he took all the tests. I had to eat all these different things so they can make sure that, and he said, you're fine. He said, but you have other things going on and your body's reacting to it. He said, I can tell you to take Benadryl. He said, but you're having your nerves, it's whatever, it's like he said that your body is reacting to whatever you're not dealing with. And he said, you're going to always have this problem until you deal with it. So, he suggested that I run, that I walk, I go see therapy, because he was like, you're reacting to something. And when he said that, I realized that. I remember having a conversation with someone in my family, and it wasn't a bad conversation, but I was agitated. I remember having a conversation, and he said to me, what is going on with your face? I broke out all on my face. Like my whole face broke out in hives, and I was just from being agitated. And that's when I realized, okay, he's right. It's right. Like I'm at the point where my body's probably just going to shut down one day. And it was just stress. It was absolutely all stress, just not dealing with it, not taking any exercise. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating right. I was at work all the time. I worked all day Saturday. The only day I allowed myself to be home was on Sunday, and I would be stressed out that I wasn't at work. Like I
Do you think
forgot
that's
something.
common? That's a common occurrence?
Oh my God. I would go in on Saturday, it'd be a full house. And we're not supposed to be there. Like you're off on Saturday, but you can pop in at the office. The office is open 24 hours now. Most of the fashion companies' offices are open 24 hours. You can pop in at 2:00 in the morning, someone will be at their desk.
We're going to take a few comments. I mean, that's yeah, horrible. It's horrible. And I'm sure a lot of people we're dealing with that same situation. Yeah. So Stacy says, hello, fantastic people. Hello, fantastic people. Liz says she's a badass, which is you, Martu.
Thank you.
Awesome. So cool. But I mean, other people, did you see the stress playing out in their lives like that? I mean, I know they were probably drinking and doing other things.
Oh, I drank to go to sleep. Like that's the only way I could just calm myself down to go to sleep. We drank at work. It was very common to go out for lunch and go get some drinks. Like we need this maybe once or twice a week, sometimes 3 times. It was not uncommon to go and drink. I wish I could smoke. I could never smoke. But the girls that smoke, I envy them because they got to go outside and get a breath of fresh air. And they, just a break. Like I was like, God, why can't I smoke? I tried.
Just to get a break. That's horrible. You want to smoke just so you can get a break. Stacy asked,
that's the first time I'm hearing that.
I was envious, mind you, when you're downstairs for 10 minutes, I'm still at my desk. And
you know what? I can relate because I have never smoked in my life, but whenever people in my team and I was like, I'm going for a smoke break, and people look at me, well, I'm just going for a smoke break, all right?
Exactly. It was unfair.
It was unfair. Stacy asked, who's your favorite designer?
My all-time favorite is Alexander McQueen, and I also love Vivienne Westwood. I love London English designers. I just love that they are badass and they have no boundaries. There's no boundaries there. So when I went to London, it opened my eyes and I was just amazed. Like they just blew me away. So my heart would be in London.
London
Absolutely.
designers.
Yeah, I do. I love them.
Anna says, I love this woman too much. The level of encouragement and wisdom she brings just from her testimony alone is priceless. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, to tell the truth about where you are and what you're going through is really courageous. And then to do something about it, it's even bigger. So what did you do to get the hell out? What is it that you did?
I got to the point of the second breakdown and I was literally losing it. I wasn't breaking out as much, but I was crying every day. Like I literally cried at the same time every day. Like the minute it was on clockwork. And my sister was my confidant at the time, so she knew to call me and she would like carry me through that hour of me literally crying every single day. And I remember talking to someone at work and they said, well, we have insurance. You can go and get, like, you need to talk to someone. Believe me, everyone was like, we've done it, go. So I went to see this psychiatrist and she wasn't too far from the office. I walked there and I told her everything and I was bawling. And she said, I'm gonna tell you one thing. She said, I'm not gonna prescribe you anything because this is a decision. And I know God or the universe put certain people in my life because I do not believe in medication when it comes to mental health. but I do believe that you need to do something. And I went there wanting her to give me prescriptions at that point. Like I wanted her to
Right.
say, here is some medicine to calm you down so you can cope.
Right.
She said, I'm not going to do that. She said, you have to make a decision. She said, you can stay here and be miserable or you can move on. She said, you look like a smart woman. I need you to make that decision. She said, you can come back and keep talking to me, but let's get to the point where you make a decision. And that's when I knew. I was on the fence like every day, my walk to work, sitting in the meetings. It was like, do I leave? Do I stay? Do it? Like it was never not on the plate for me. And talking to her, she caught that. She was like, you have to make a decision. And I saw her twice and she said, what are you going to do? I said, I have to figure it out and I'm going to make a decision. And I went and I wrote a letter to the HR and I said, I can't do this and I'm giving you my 2 weeks. And she was kind of cheering for me. She said, you know what? I'm happy that you're decided to do what's best for you. Because I was at the place where I was managing close to 3 million in raw materials and merchandise every season, which was the bulk of the company. And I had no help because I looked like me. All of my other departments had help and I did not have help. I was told that I didn't need help because I was new on the team. When people came behind me had assistants and freelancers, I never had anyone to help me. And it was like a form of hazing. And it was very unfair. People spoke out about it for me. People came to me and said, you have to do something. You have to do something. And I was like, do I stay here and fight this battle and lose my mind? Or do I move on? Do I move on? And I decided to move on. But that was from me working. That was the days that I worked up until 11 o'clock. And I still got there at 7 before 8 o'clock. And that was like literally almost a year of that.
Wow.
And I just love the title of your book because it's exactly what you did, and it's exactly it says everything, and it's I love it. It's you just said it exactly how it felt.
Yeah, I would walk to work every day, and I'm like, I would get to a certain street, I would get off at 34th Street, and I would walk down to Fifth, and the minute I hit the Fifth Avenue, my stomach would drop, and I would get this pinch in my stomach, and I would walk so slow, and in that walk, it was like, you need to get the hell out. You can't do this. You can't do this. Just turn around. I would like and then I would walk on the door, and I would go to the bathroom, and I would sit in there for a minute, and then I would go to my desk, and I would just all day with this like back and forth.
How difficult it is for mental health of a person to go through all that. You are, per se in your dream job.
Yeah,
that's what you're dealing with behind the scenes. That's what's happening to you.
Yeah, and you can't complain, because you can't complain because first of all, at that point, I was making the most money I've ever made in my life. I was scared to share with family members, especially the men in my family, because they would be like, "You're making what?" So it was just, I'm like, "You're at the top now. How can you be,
miserable?
How can you quit? Yeah.
How can you quit?"
Yeah.
And I just, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And a wonderful woman shared something with me. I'm so happy I saw it. We were working late, and I happened to go in the bathroom, and she went in. She came out of the bathroom. She was bawling. She was crying, and I was like, "Oh my God, do I say anything?" Because she wasn't very nice to me. But I'm a concerned person, so I went behind her. I said, "Are you okay?" It was just me and her on the floor at the time. It was like 9:30, and she said, "I'm okay." She said, "I'm just, every day I go through this because I know I'm not going to make my train." She actually lived in Pennsylvania and she was working in Manhattan.
Wow.
And she had a 7-month-old son.
Oh my God.
And she knew she missed the train, so she would have to get the later train, which means she would not see her son. She would go home and literally lay down and come back again in the morning. And she was on the phone at the time, like her husband, I guess she got off the phone when I started to talk to her. Her husband called her and he was like kind of coaching her, "You're okay, it's fine." And she was just like, "I'm so sorry. I haven't seen him in 2 days." And she's bawling. I didn't even know this woman had a child. She had a 7-month-old child. But people go back to work in the fashion industry literally within a couple of weeks. Like you set up your nanny and you go back to work. And this woman was commuting and she hadn't seen her son like up in like three days.
Yeah, see him awake.
And I saw that, and it I couldn't get that out of my mind for months Like, I can't be that person. I can't be a mom crying because I can't put my son to sleep. Like, she was bawling. I thought someone died, but that was like her every
Yeah.
day of not knowing that she couldn't leave.
Reality.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, just go. And she's like, I can't go. I can't. I
Yeah.
have this meeting tomorrow. Is no way I can leave this building until I'm done. Mind you, it's 9:30. So she missed the 9 o'clock train, which means she had to stay until like 11 to get the last train out of New York.
Which
And that
also
was,
highlights how, we talk about cutthroat competition, but that's how cutthroat this industry is.
yeah,
That if you're not there for a month, you're gone. You're
you're
history.
gone. And
Somebody
Yeah.
will replace you before you even realize.
I had a boss that she gave birth and she was on a plane to China within 3 weeks. And we were like, are you
Wow.
kidding me? But she's
Oh
not
my
gonna
God.
let anyone take her job. So she's gonna get on that plane and she's gonna leave that 3-week-old baby. And it's just insane. I
Wow.
saw that all the time, and for me, it was like, I'm not going to be that person. I
Yeah.
refuse to be that person.
So
That
now you have
one
a new
industry
dream.
is look, but that was the one industry that I knew. That's the only industry that was not mommy friendly. It's the fashion industry. It's not mommy
And it's
friendly.
so it's such an oxymoron because so many
Exactly.
women are involved in that
Exactly.
industry.
Exactly. You have the most miserable women in the world. They don't have kids and they don't have a life and they don't have most of them haven't been in a relationship for years. How can you have a relationship and see someone once a week for an hour and you're crying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Martu, there's so much to talk
Wow.
about with you, but our time is up. And so
Yeah.
um,
We could run 10 episodes just with you on the
Thank you.
conversation. Yeah. And I think we need to talk about this because I'd love to have you on Almost
No.
Naked Conversation talking
And-
about, you've talked about mental health, you've talked about, childcare, you've talked about not being able to meet your own child or your own family, not having a relationship.
yeah.
There's so many things out there. And before we go, I do want to ask, like, the new life that you have now,
Yeah.
what's changed since you got out?
When I got out, I had to realize that I could create whatever I want. And I was it I had to be in a space where nothing was happening and I couldn't
Right.
get a job even if I wanted to. It was during the 2008 when everything crashed. And so I was like in limbo. And a very smart person said to me, Martu, you can create whatever you want. You
mhm.
don't have to go back to corporate. You can create whatever you want. And I was like, okay. And then 2011, I said, you know what? I'm moving to Florida because I want to create, and I can't do it. I can't do it here, and the space is tainted for me. Philadelphia was tainted. New York was tainted. My sister was in Florida. I said, you know what? Maybe if I'm going to create, not sure yet, I'm going to do it somewhere else. And Florida was the place. And I just decided to create. Again, when I came here, there were no fashion jobs. So it was like, okay, you have to create something. So I recreated my business, which is Emia Production. I started teaching. I started doing workshops. I created my own world in fashion, and I'm still connected, but it's not connected to anyone but me. I control this space, and I control what I do. And
Freedom!
it's whew.
Married your
And
love?
that was but it was not
Freedom.
easy. It was not easy. I will not preach easiness because I had to sacrifice a lot to get here. But I just decided, and you heard me say this 3 times, 3 situations that I had to decide. I had to decide, and I had to stick to it.
Yes. Stacy says, continue taking up space and making yourself safe and showing the world who you are and how
Thank
you are
you.
changing the world.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Martu. This has been awesome.
Thank
And
you.
yes, we definitely are going to invite you again because
Yay.
there's so much more we haven't even touched on.
I know.
Just skimmed the surface.
We should have planned the 6-hour episode right now.
I have some good stories.
You do have some great stories, I'm sure. All right. Well, stay in the green room. We're going to come back to you in a second as we close off the show. Thank you so much. This has been Women Unleashed, Season 4, Episode 10. And our guest was Martu Freeman. I'm your host, Alicia Curry, with
Sebastian One, and I'm just amazed. This is one time we can say in this episode, like, really, we haven't even touched the surface. We didn't
I think
even,
a lot of times when that happens.
yeah, we didn't even get there, and there's so much in this industry, and yeah,
The fashion
I
industry
think
is huge. It's one of the biggest industries in the world. So
yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. And I'm just glad she was available to come on and say so.
Anna
Nothing
says
short of
nothing short
boss.
of a boss.
Yes, Anna.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
thank you
thank
so
you,
much for
everyone.
joining us. Go ahead.
So thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll be back next week, same back time, same back channel. And as we say on Romaniac TV, you dream big, and we make it happen.
Good night, everybody.